Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Hope everyone is doing well. Prabhuji, can you see the screen? Can you once confirm me?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. I think we have to start from this point, right? If you remember Krishna Prabhupada punctuated like till here we read.
Yes, Mataji. Yes, Mataji. If everyone's God, yeah. That's all.
Thank you so much. Om Agyanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Prabhupada punctuated his talk by sudden stops. He was angry. It was as if he were changing his disciples for allowing this nonsense. Charging his disciple for allowing this nonsense. I am God. Talk to go on unchecked. Why didn't they stop these rascals? He looked at them with eyes flashing. Were they meeting the challenges of the atheist? They should be. They should be fighting, and these were the arguments they should use. They shouldn't doubt. We understand God is vast, Prabhupada continued. We are similar to him in quality, but we are infinitesimal. If they are God, then how is it they have come to this doggish state? You may be God, but for the present moment, they are not God. They will admit that for the present moment they are not God, but that they will become God in the future. But what kind of God is this? And how have they fallen under illusion? That means illusion is stronger than God, that they have come under illusion. So the God then is Maya, or not God. They may be God, but they are not the Param Brahma, the Supreme God. We have the definition of God that He is all powerful. This Swami is not all powerful. If some poor fellow came to him on the street, he could not stop from getting a beating. And if he got a toothache, he would be ruined as God. God is all wealthy. This Swami is begging for money, and he's God. God is all knowing. They are not even intelligent. To surrender to Krishna is intelligent. They are kicking each other and they are fallen in the conditioned state. And they say they are God. These questions should be put to them. They cannot answer them. Prabhupada continued his walk through a neighborhood of automobile showroom, hamburger luncheonettes not yet opened, and bus stops crowded with workers who stared at the elderly Swami passing with his young followers. The devotees, Prabhupada said, are more interested in talking about Krishna and in chanting his name than in arguing. But because so many godless parties come forward and challenge, a Vaishnava must be able to argue on the basis of Shastra and sound logic. Mr. Matthews, the Harvard graduate student of Vaishnavism, visited Prabhupada at his apartment one evening. Prabhupada explained that if one is inquisitive not about temporary things but about absolute, then he must go to a guru. Mr. Matthews asked whether sannyasa was necessary. According to Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada replied, a sannyasi is one who has given everything to the service of Krishna. The dress and the social standing are not important. While Mr. Matthews posed intricate questions about the contemporary situation of spiritual master in India, Srila Prabhupada explained that a true spiritual master must be in disciplic succession and must strictly follow the regulative principles of Vaishnava behavior. The current family customs in India of having a family guru was foolishness. The guru was not a family commodity or a pet. Mr. Matthews was trying to make the point that Prabhupada was not the only spiritual master, and that there were many pure devotees in places like Vrindavan who did not necessarily go out for preaching, but who preached to whoever came to them. Lord Chaitanya, said Srila Prabhupada, ordered to go out and preach Krishna consciousness. Not that I stay in Vrindavan and if anyone comes to me, I will teach. We must go out and go to them. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered like that. He is the authority. We don't serve this or that. We serve Krishna and nothing else. I am a servant of Krishna, and the best position for preaching is sannyasa. because he does not have to send money to his family or go back to his wife at a certain hour, but everything is for Krishna. This is attractive background for preaching. The dress is not important. Mr. Matthews disagreed that a spiritual master had to be a sannyasi or a renounced preacher. After about an hour, Mr. Matthews checked his watch and became alarmed. Oh my goodness, it's late. I am having guests over and my wife is cooking a dinner for them. I have to go. You see, Prabhupada said, this proves my point. Late in May, Prabhupada held a public lecture at Arlington Street Church, a well known landmark in the heart of downtown Boston. With many respectable looking older people as well as young people in the audience, the meeting was well attended. Srila Prabhupada spoke on yoga as Lord Krishna explains it in Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada emphasized that Krishna chose Arjuna as the recipient of the knowledge of yoga. Why Arjuna? Arjuna, Srila Prabhupada explained, wasn't a sannyasi, he was a family man. He wasn't a scholar, and so many big scholars were present at the time. He wasn't a Hatha yogi or even a Brahmana. So, why was he picked? Prabhupada shouted into the microphone, Bhakto Simi, Bhakto Simi Sakha Cheti, because you are my devotee. Afterward, Prabhupada asked for questions. There are different levels of yoga, someone asked. So you can take any yoga and then go further up. Step by step, you can go up. That is your option. But Bhakti Yoga is to take the life immediately. One who is thinking always of me within his heart and is engaged in my service with faith and devotion, he is a first class yogi of all yogis. Yoga means to connect the supreme personality of Godhead. If by some process you can at once contact, that is the first class. Why not try it? Try chanting Hare Krishna, try this process. Does devotion come first and then awareness, or awareness first? Prabhupada, first devotion, then awareness. If you do not labor for passing exam, how can you pass? How you can pass? The primary rule is to chant. Just see. We have little faith in the beginning, a little respect. We think, let me see what is this Krishna consciousness. If we think it is nice, then we come again and associate. These boys did not accept in the beginning, but they came and advanced. For others, it is hackened. But these boys have become purified and they have a taste. They cannot give it up. It is ecstasy. So there is a gradual process of love of God. The next morning, three disciples of Swami Satchitanand visited Srila Prabhupada. Accompanying him on his morning walk, they asked many questions. They were young men like Prabhupada's disciples. One of them was a hairdresser named Bob. If they are already disciples of a guru, Sat Sarupa thought, then why are they so curious about another guru's process? Bob asked, don't you need to practice Hatha Yoga in order to purify the body so that eventually you can purify the higher self within? Cleanse the mind and the intelligence, Prabhupada replied, and the body is automatically cleansed. Hatha Yoga is for those in the gross bodily concept of life. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that a wise man does not place much importance on the body. The Hatha Yogi's main concentration is this body. But bodily exercise he wants to have by bodily exercise he wants to have Krishna's love. If this were possible, all wrestlers and athletes would have achieved Krishna love. Lord Chaitanya's program of chanting begins with the cleansing of the mind, and this takes care of cleansing the body. Yoga student. What about sex desire? I want the spiritual, but I have such a strong desire for sex. Prabhupada. Hatha Yoga is also for controlling sex desire. If you have such desire, you are making no progress. Yoga student. How does a devotee of Krishna control sex desire? Prabhupada. Automatically, Krishna is so beautiful. We are accustomed to this habit for a very long time. Become sincere and Krishna will protect you. Yoga student. Sometimes I have a sex urge. Prabhupada. What? You? Everybody. In the birds, bees, demigod, the binding force is sex. The material life means sex desire. Free from sex desire means advancing in spiritual desire. If you have a strong sex desire, pray to Krishna. Know that this is the attack of Maya. Pray and Maya will go away. You cannot fight with Maya with your own energy. Maya is presenting herself more beautiful than Krishna, but Krishna is more beautiful. Yoga student, how soon before I could get initiated by you? Prabhupada. The first initiation is to understand the philosophy. Actually, one should be initiated after hearing for 1 year. Yoga student, how can you tell a Krishna conscious holy man from an ordinary holy man? Prabhupada, he is always thinking about Krishna, not even a moment without thinking about Krishna. Yoga student, can Maya have a hold on a man who is dedicated to selflessness even if he doesn't take to Krishna? Prabhupada, yes. Maya is always holding you. Unless you surrender to Krishna, some way Maya has you. God says, here I am. But you say, God is somewhere else. You are searching after God and you cannot see when He comes before you. Then you are in Maya. Why don't you accept Krishna as God? Yoga student. What is the nature of a devotee? Is he always in ecstasy? Prabhupada. Yes, always in ecstasy. He's always feeling separation. I could not serve Krishna. I could not serve Krishna. This is nice. Yoga student. Does it actually say anywhere in the scripture that you have to come back to material world if you don't worship Krishna? Does it actually say it? Prabhupada. Yes, yes. Aruya krichrena parama padam tata patanya adho nadrata yushmad angarya. By neglecting your lotus feet, he has to come down again. Feet means he is a person. These yoga students were attracted to Prabhupada's teaching. They began to act like his follower, attending his kirtans and lectures, offering obeisances to him. One day, after a morning walk, Prabhupada, accompanied by some of his disciples and the yoga student, returned to his room. When Prabhupada noticed that his secretary, Gaur Sundara, was absent, he called for him. Gaur Sundara came to the door, and Prabhupada asked why he was not attending the talk. He was busy working in another room. Gaur Sundara explained. Do you think that these talks I give are just for new men? Prabhupada asked angrily. You don't have to hear. Do you think that you are so advanced? This is not good. You should always hear when your spiritual master speaks. After several days, the Hatha Yoga students stopped coming. They appeared so devoted, Prabhupada remarked casually, that one boy was even helping me with my shoes. Prabhupada continued attending the storefront 3 nights a week, wearing his Swami cap with its hanging straps. He looked like rugged avatar. Entering the room, he would look around to see who was there, walk forward to the altar, offer his obeisances to the picture of Krishna, and ascend to the raised platform to speak. One night, while Prabhupada was down on his hands and knees before the altar, just about to rise up after offering obeisances, he began to carefully scrutinize a picture one of the devotees had recently placed on the altar. The picture showed a young woman handing baby Krishna to his father Vasudeva. Both Vasudeva and the young woman were standing in a river. The devotees didn't know the meaning of the picture or who the woman was, so one of them asked Prabhupada about it. While Prabhupada and half a dozen devotees remained on the floor on their hands and knees, Prabhupada told them the story. Krishna's father Vasudeva had been carrying him across the Yamuna when Krishna had fallen in. In great anxiety, Vasudeva has searched within the water for his son. The Yamuna river personified. The young woman in the picture had then risen out of the water and handed Krishna to Vasudeva, saying, I just wanted to play with him for a while. One night after his lecture, while Prabhupada sat conversing with disciple, Govinda Dasi handed him an advertisement. Raya Rama has designed for Back to Godhead magazine that features several pictures of Prabhupada and the headline, This man has changed the history of the world. The devotees were proud of the ad, which was supposed to be in accordance with the latest graphic and advertising trends. Prabhupada, however, held the ad in his hand silently. Finally, someone asked him what he thought of it, and Prabhupada replied, "This is not good. It is not considered respectful to call the spiritual master by the term man. This shows the state of consciousness of the disciple," he explained. Frowning, he handed back the ad. Several times one evening, children screaming and rapping on the window panes interrupted Prabhupada's lecture. After several interruptions, Prabhupada shook his head and said that these children had no training, which was a fault of modern society. A man in the audience objected, but children are known as the divine foe. What is that? Prabhupada asked. These children are supposed to be divine. Prabhupada looked at the man. Supposed to be? He said dryly, that's all right. One evening after the lecture, Prabhupada toured the small storefront. One of the main features he noted was the abundance of paintings by Jadurani, and he looked at each one with pleasure. When he went downstairs to the basement and saw the devotees' austere living and bathing condition for which some people had criticized them, he was not disturbed. He inspected the oil burner and asked if it worked all right. There was little for Satswarupa to show him in the tiny building. So Prabhupada saw everything in only a few minutes. Yet, because it was a Krishna center and they were Krishna's devotee, Prabhupada's brief tour made everything seem important and worthwhile. It came as a surprise to everyone when one day Prabhupada said that he would be giving some of his disciples Brahmana or the second initiation. He would award the Gayatri Mantra and the sacred thread to those men who had been initiated for at least 1 year. The devotees wanted to know more about the initiation, and Prabhupada said he would explain everything at the ceremony. The ceremony, he said, would be in the temple and there should be a sacrificial fire just as at any other initiation. He invited Mr. Matthews from Harvard as the guest of honor. On the day of initiation, everyone crowded into the temple room around the mound of the earth where the sacred fire would soon be blazing. The half a dozen male disciples whom Srila Prabhupada had selected to receive Brahminical initiation took their seats. Prabhupada entered, taking his seat on the pillow on the floor directly before the mound of the earth. He began to explain how his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, had introduced Brahmanical initiation for disciples not born of Brahmana families. He said the Vedic scriptures offered much evidence that by associating with pure devotees, anyone could become a Brahmana. In fact, the scripture said that if one born in a Brahmana family did not behave as a Brahmana, then he should not be accepted as a Brahmana. So in it was in following his spiritual master and the Vedic scripture that Srila Prabhupada was now going to give Brahminical initiation to his disciples. Addressing Mr. Matthews as Professor Matthews, Prabhupada asked whether he had any questions about the procedure. Mr. Matthews laughed and said he was not a professor yet. He asked whether the Gayatri Mantra was more important than the Hare Krishna Mantra. Prabhupada replied that the Hare Krishna Mantra was sufficient in itself for delivering the disciple back to Godhead. Nevertheless, the Gayatri Mantra would increase the Krishna consciousness of the disciple. Mr. Matthews, do these disciples take on any new vows such as fasting, Prabhupada? No, there is no new vow. As far as fasting is concerned, people take to fasting because generally they eat all nonsense all week. So for one day they stop eating in order to purify themselves. But the devotees are always eating Krishna Prasadam, which is sanctified. So even by eating, they are fasting. Later in the ceremony, the boys went one by one and sat beside Srila Prabhupada, who placed a sacred white thread over their bare shoulders and chest and showed them how to count the mantras on their fingers. While the sacrificial fire was blazing and the devotees were chanting mantras and throwing grains in the flames, the landlord's wife suddenly intruded. She was middle aged, intoxicated, disheveled, and grotesque alcoholic tottering in the doorway. Striding into the room, she shouted, "God damn this house," and then turned and left, slamming the door. Prabhupada looked up innocently. What did she say? Did she say that this is the house of God? She is just drunk, Satsvarup said. Govinda Dasi hadn't gone to the initiation, excusing herself as ill. Although she hadn't told Prabhupada, she was upset that he wasn't giving Brahmanical initiation to women. Disappointed, she had stayed at Swamiji's apartment crying. After an hour, however, she decided that by behaving so foolishly, she was missing out on Prabhupada's talk. So she hurried out of the house and ran all the way to the temple, arriving near the end of the ceremony. As she entered, Prabhupada looked up. Oh, he said, I was just thinking, where is that girl and Krishna has sent? In the ceremony, Govinda Dasi conferred with Jaddurani, who also felt slighted. Prabhupada could detect their mentality, although they didn't openly voice a complaint. The next morning, he told Gaurasundara and Govinda Dasi that he saw no harm in offering the Gayatri Mantra to women, but they could not receive the sacred thread. That very night, he held a separate ceremony initiating Govinda Dasi and Jaddurani into the Gayatri Mantra. A few days later, a group of devotees came from New York and Prabhupada initiated more Brahmanas. One morning, when he saw a group of new Brahmana initiates coming to join him on his walk, he said, Oh, here come the Brahmanas, but now don't be Brahmanas in name only. The bus was painted green and had cracked windshield, no seat, and a dubious engine. It was unregistered and uninsured. Hamsaduta, who had received the bus as a donation, planned to use it for the world touring Sankirtana party Prabhupada had asked him to form. Before Srila Prabhupada and gathering of devotees in Prabhupada's room, Hamsaduta talked enthusiastically about the newly donated bus. Prabhupada asked to go for a ride. Rohini Kumar. The bus was so horrible, it was in a terrible condition and rattling so much. It was on the verge of breaking down at any minute. The only seat on the bus was the driver's seat, so someone got a chair for the house from the house for Swamiji to sit on. He sat in the front like the captain of a ship. He was completely transcendental to the whole horrible situation, and I felt very bad. I thought, oh, Swamiji shouldn't have to ride in such a horrible bus. What began as a group of devotees taking their spiritual master on a short ride suddenly changed when, after going a block, Prabhupada began giving the driver directions. Go to the right, turn left, turn here, now go here. With the bus engine coughing sporadically, the ride remained rough and rickety. Despite several men pulling their weight against the legs of the chair, but by following Prabhupada's direction, they soon arrived at the waterfront. Prabhupada said he wanted to go to the Commonwealth Pier, the first place he had come in America when, in September of 1965, he had arrived from India aboard the Jaladuta. The boys marveled as Prabhupada continued to direct them to Commonwealth Pier. I first came here, Prabhupada said, as he walked along the pier with his disciples. I thought, I don't know why I have come here. The language is different, the idea is different. They are all after sense gratification. I don't know why I have come here, but now I have got some boys, and even if I am not here, it will go on. As the devotees walked beside Prabhupada, trying to hear him speak, they could see the city skyline nearby. One large building was being torn down and new ones were going up. So many strong buildings, Prabhupada said, being torn down and then rebuilt. There is no pleasure in it, neither in building nor in tearing down. Nobody is happy. It is like with a small child. He is happy to get a toy and then he is happy to break it. But there is no real happiness. Just like the boy and the girl, they come together in union and then they separate, divorce. There is no real happiness in the union or in separation. Real happiness is in union with Krishna and separation from Maya. But it is Maya that again and again causes this union and separation in the material world. As they walked together under the steel bridge, Prabhupada pointed upward with his walking cane. Look, a sign under the bridge read unalloyed steel. They have unalloyed steel and we have unalloyed devotional service. What if people don't want to hear our message? Pradyumna asked. The people might not understand our message, but Krishna will be pleased. Prabhupada replied, and that is our mission. They thought Jesus Christ's mission was stopped. They killed him, but his mission was attained. He preached 3 years only, but so many followers. He pleased Krishna. We must not be disappointed that no one is hearing Krishna consciousness. We will say it to the moon and the stars in all directions. We will cry in the wilderness because Krishna is everywhere. We want to get a certificate from Krishna that this man has done something for me, not popularity. If a pack of asses say you are good, what is that? We have to please Krishna's senses with purified senses. For an hour, Prabhupada led them up and down the unattractive historic pier. Finally, he stood by the bus about to return. All religion is useless, he said. Until we know that this world is useless, it is not wanted. That is a real knowledge. And when you know this, then there is no attachment. And then immediately no hankering and loss. But now they are hankering. I have no girlfriend, and then I have lost my girlfriend. Vamandev has trouble starting the engine. Even after he got it started, it stalled several times on the way back to Chester Street. When Prabhupada arrived at his house, he said that they should sell the bus. Such vehicles presented a bad public image. Having a bus was a good idea, but not a bus like that. With Prabhupada's permission, the devotees scheduled him for the all night Uncle J show, a talk show on the radio station WMEX at 11 p.m. Three devotees, Sat Swarupa and Pradyumna in suits and ties, and Jaddurani in sari went on air. Prabhupada was scheduled to join them at 3 o'clock. I have before me in the studio tonight, Uncle J began. Two nice young men and a young woman who have normal American names like Steve, Paul, and Judy. And when you hear them speak, they sound like normal Americans. But if you could see them, they look a little unusual. Down the front of their noses, they have some white paint. Uncle Jay's listener began calling in questions, and although most of the questions were trivial, the devotees got many good opportunity to talk about Krishna consciousness. Finally, around 3 a.m., Srila Prabhupada arrived. He had risen according to his usual schedule and had come directly to the station. Impressed by Prabhupada, Uncle Jay received him politely and had him sit down and begin answering questions. Question: I heard a Swami can't pass over water. So, how did you get to the USA? Prabhupada: No, why not? That is a superstition. Lord Chaitanya said to spread this philosophy all over the world in every town and village. So, he certainly knew I would have to cross over the water. Question: How did you become a Swami? Prabhupada: Everyone is expected to become a Swami. Suppose one lives 100 years. The fourth state is to renounce and completely be engaged in controlling the senses. So it takes 75 years to become a Swami. Question: Did you give up your wife? Prabhupada: Woman is not given up. She is always dependent on her father as a young girl, and then on her husband, then on her children, older sons. I was in India recently and my son saw me, but my wife could not see me. Question: In this country, we would call that desertion. Prabhupada: No, it is a question of progress. There is no divorce. She is a devotee of another Swami. The wife generally is not allowed to be the student of her husband who has become a Swami. Question: Do you believe the soul is immortal? Prabhupada: Yes, you know the soul is immortal. Immortality is not a question of belief, it is a fact. You know what you were in your childhood and your youth. Question: What does it mean in the Bible? The soul that sinneth also deeth. The Uncle J interrupted and said that since this was a question about Bible, the caller should ask his priest and not trouble the Swami. But Prabhupada interrupted. No, we can answer this. He who identifies with the body commits practical suicide. He forget himself. Those who are sinful forget their spiritual identity and they have to take another body. Question: what impelled you to take sannyasa? Prabhupada, routine work. One has to become a Swami. It is not a hobby because they don't take sannyasa, they suffer. Question: you say meditation is very difficult. How does chanting make it easier? Prabhupada, at the present moment, meditation in its pure form is not possible. To do it properly, one has to control the senses, follow the rules, practice the sitting posture, thinking, feeling, become absorbed in thought. But chanting, as soon as you hear Krishna, immediately the mind is attracted. There is no necessity of pre qualification. Anyone in any country can sit down and chant Hare Krishna and he will find himself in complete meditation. Uncle J. So Maharishi's transcendental meditation is nothing new. Prabhupada. No, he says to go and enjoy and simply pay him $35. But you have to control your senses, or how can you meditate? Because you do not want to practice, you do not want to follow. I was surprised that people in America and Western Europe took these cheap things. You don't want the real things. These yogis never restrict their students. If they restrict their student, the student do not come and pay the fees. Uncle J. When I was small, I read a book about Swamis who slept on the beds of nail. Are you that kind of Swami? Prabhupada. That is just a trick. That is not perfection. Uncle J. Do you mean when you say Swami means control of the senses that if I cut you, you won't feel pain? Prabhupada. That is not perfection. If you can take even chloroform, then you will not feel pain. As in a surgical operation, control of the senses means that I can be in the midst of beautiful women, but I will feel no desire for sex. I have got sufficient strength, but I have no desire for this. This is the real control of the senses. And so it went until 5 in the morning. On the way home, Srila Prabhupada rode in the front seat of a taxi beside the driver. Understanding he had an unusual passenger, the driver, who had been listening to the Uncle J show, asked Prabhupada, are you similar to that transcendental meditation Swami? We are similar, Prabhupada said, in that he is a Hindu sage and we are a Hindu sage. But his method, meditation, is actually a very difficult process, but ours is very easy chanting. The children on the Chester Street would call out Hare Krishna whenever they say Prabhupada come out of his apartment. They were making fun, but Prabhupada liked it. Once, when a devotee tried to stop the children, Prabhupada said, oh no, they are chanting Hare Krishna, that's all right. He said Chester Street should now be called Hare Krishna Street. It was in Swamiji's room one day on Hare Krishna Street that he accepted the name Prabhupada. While Govindadasi was taking dictation, Prabhupada mentioned that the affix G was a third class address. Then why do we call you Swami Ji? She asked. What should we call you? A spiritual master? Prabhupada replied, is usually addressed by the names like Gurudeva, Vishnupada, Prabhupada. May we call you Prabhupada? She asked, yes. And Govinda Dasi told the others. At first, some of the devotees were reluctant to give up the long cherished Swamiji, which for them was a name of affection. I heard we shouldn't use the name Swamiji anymore. One of the boys asked one morning on a walk. Who said? Prabhupada replied quickly. They said, you said it was a third class and we shouldn't say it. I never said that. Then we can use it. Yes, that is all right. But Swamiji soon disappeared. Raya Rama even printed an explanation in the back to Godhead. Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Maybe we can read this part tomorrow. It's an interesting part about Prabhupada, the naming of how Prabhupada got his name, Prabhupada. So it was a very interesting read for me as well. as we have left yesterday from the topic of how one can be, how different Swamis who are coming to US were telling themselves God, and how Prabhupada is teaching his disciples uh, the logic to refute such comments, and later also so many question and answer sessions. It was very nice to see how Prabhupada is trying to instruct them. And through this only, I also got to know that Boston was a place where he gave first time, second initiation, like to his disciples. So it was also something special, and his explanation of Brahmana, which I really quite like, that true Brahmana is someone who is really a Brahmana in his action. So that was so nice, and I also like that part where he initiated even the Matajis for Gayatri Mantra, and yeah, even though they didn't express their desire, but Prabhupada could get that. So it was all very nice. How did you all feel?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare
I
Krishna.
felt I felt there are many points which was very good, but one thing which I liked most is basically Prabhupada when he was explaining to student that how to control desire, and even if you don't remember Krishna, or if you don't pray to Krishna, I think Maya will be always there. So you can't fight Maya without Krishna. So that's a very good point, I feel.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, very true. Actually, all this question answer sessions, even with this
Yeah.
yoga student and the later in the radio show, I was just when I was reading, I was thinking that well, maybe at some point of the time, not all, but we must have had those questions, or maybe still having. So it is
Yes.
so nice that Prabhupada is answering, and with his words only, we are getting the answer. So it was nice.
Yes, but it's very nice to hear this, and then just to know that how Prabhupada has answered all those questions, and how, because initially when I'm still on the starting phase, I believe, but I had this question before also, and I used to think about those things, that who can answer me on those things and all, and I was asking everybody, those who was telling about Krishna,
Mm.
and I feel that this is the same situation. Prabhupada was getting to ask a lot of question from a lot of people, and he was not irritated. He was happily telling everybody, and even though the kids they were telling Hare Krishna, he was very happy, even though they were making fun. So it was very good to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, and for Prabhupada, there was no topic was off the table. He was ready to discuss each and everything,
Yes.
so that yeah, he gave the complete and the clear picture. There is no chance of doubts.
Yeah. No gray area.
Yeah, no gray area. Rightly said.
Yes. Yes,
Yes.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Satish Prabhu, you are also.
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji,
Hare-
wonderful recitation, Mataji. Thank you for this. One second, Mataji, just off my window, Mataji. So, yes, Mataji, basically the interactions with the students and also the interaction with, I think Jay, right? Jay was the uh,
Uncle Jay.
Uncle J.S. Mataji. So, because even in Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, nobody traveled outside the country because it is said to be pap to leave the Bharata Khanda. And also,
Mm.
Mataji, there is a special temple in Tamil Nadu where all people, in case we decide to move back to India, so
Mm.
this is all Papa countries, all these Western countries. So we have to do some,
Buddhi.
Pretty exactly, Mataji. Before we, decide to completely move off, right? So I think that's how the mindset was. Maybe it is true that it's by acharyas. I'm not qualified, but I think even those kind of questions. The surprising part is this Uncle Jay has prepared himself for all those kind of questions, and it was again 3 a.m. in the morning. Somebody at the age of 68, 69, 3 a.m. in the morning. So I think that interaction was very nice, Mataji. And I think we are also very lucky, in the small group, right? Because how did Prabhupada get his second initiated name, or Prabhupada?
Yeah. Yes, yes. I was like, the time was running. I wanted to read more that, oh, how that Prabhupada, because this is the instant, it's like something like that. Oh, it's happening now. We are
Very
feeling that it's happening in front of us.
correct, Mataji.
That sort of feeling was there. Oh, this is the moment Prabhupada was being called by all as Prabhupada.
Mataji, I
Yeah,
think that's very special. So looking forward for tomorrow's session. So I think a very wonderful episode of Boston, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji.
yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for joining and putting your input. Hare Krishna, Pratik Prabhu. Yeah, Prabhu, we are doing this f- for the time being when Sudama Prabhu is not there. So we are reading this Leelamrit every day at Nityam Bhagavata Seva timings. So I think you have joined today for the first time for the Leelamrit. Yes, Prabhuji. So, Mala, how did you find it?
Yes, it was nice. I think, yeah, many of my level of questions were there. But yeah, for me, and I'm trying just understanding, getting to know things. Yeah,
Mm.
I won't
Thank you.
ask questions, but yeah, I just started again. So
No, I appreciate Prabhu coming at this hour and joining us for Leelamrit. So, thank you so much, Prabhu.
yeah,
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.
Jai.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.